August 19th, 2015 regular session. This time, please silence or shut off your cell phones and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance if you would.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at this time we do have some changes to our agenda. So at this time, we have a deletion, the STF vehicle RFQ purchase. Correct, Denise?
Correct.
Forest Service Cooperative Law Enforcement Agreement.
As an addition.
At 11 o'clock, we have a road vacation request. That's a timed item now. The remodel project change order. And Central Oregon Cohesive Strategy Participation Letter.
Just as FYI, Paul does have people calling in for the Forest Service Cooperative Law Enforcement somewhere around 11:15.
Around 11 also.
11:15.
11:15, all right. If that is the board have any changes or additions?
Yeah.
All right. We'll go right along. Our first item is public comment. If there's any public comment at this time, other than what's on the agenda, we'll take public comment at this time.
I'll speak.
Okay.
I wanted to speak on the moratorium.
That's on our agenda.
Oh, I have to wait? Okay, sorry.
That's fine.
I don't have the agenda.
There being no public comment, we're going to go ahead and go through some of our other business right away. And then our hearing on the possible moratorium ordinance number 109 is at 10:10. So would like to go right on down to the Klamath County Building Official IGA. Jennifer probably doesn't have to be here. We went over this yesterday.
Correct.
To get this out of the way so that the building official can take it back.
And this agreement sets an expiration date of June 30th, 2025. That's the only difference besides annually both parties may negotiate the agreement amount if need be.
For the audience, what this is about is we do not have our own building officials. We are required by law to have one, but it's not really a full-time job because we don't have that much going on. So the contract with Klamath County for their building official to represent Lake County, and we just renewed the agreement.
Jim, there were very minor changes. You reviewed that.
Yeah,
we'd approved it before.
Yeah.
But the Klamath County Commissioners want these changes in there.
Right, the changes were minor, so you're still okay.
Entertain a motion.
Motion that we accept the contract number 2015-06B in the matter of contracting the building official.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the intergovernmental agreement as mentioned. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries.
Mr. Bailey, will you be signing that as recording secretary?
Excuse me?
There's a spot for recording secretary.
Yeah,
Okay. Better you than me.
that's a new title.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's a demotion, I think.
Secretaries run the world.
You know that, you know very well.
Yeah, you should press appropriate.
okay. We have two budget resolutions. Move right on to those. I don't believe we needed Ann up here to give the explanations yesterday. The first resolution is with the sheriff's side. That's the resolution going to contingency for dollars that were not within the budget this year that need to be paid right away on the EIS system. completion of this project.
Oh, you want me to find it? You just-
Looking for my resolution. Gotcha. So we have two resolutions. The first one's in the matter of contingency transfer software dollars, and the total amount for $39,500, and that would be increased contingency by that amount.
Increase. Decrease, yeah, about that.
Did I say increase?
Yeah.
Oh, then that's a mistake. Decrease.
Okay.
There was a constitute mistake.
Yeah.
I'll move that we accept resolution 2015-06 in the matter of contingency transfer from a contingency to the sheriff department.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept resolution number 2015-06, the matter of contingency transfer. Further discussion?
For the audience, what this is, we've been upgrading our IT program with the sheriff department so that we have better connection between the emergency, let's see, 911 in here, but also so that our patrol officers can have their computer and be able to actually do work in the field instead of driving all the way back here to do reports. And the cost of IT is just, it grows all the time, so we're just a little short to finishing that project. So we need to kind of put some money to finish that, about 90% finished already.
All in favor, did I ask that?
Nope, just did.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Next one is resolution number 2015-07, the matter of unanticipated revenue. This is on the public health side. It will bring in $34,500, and that will be brought in materials and services and salaries as mandated by the grant.
I'll make a motion we approve resolution number 2015-07 in the matter of unanticipated revenue in the amount of $34,500 being brought in.
And I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve resolution number 2015-07. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Denise, do you have those, or does Ann have those for us to sign?
Did I not just hand that to you?
Yeah, I think she did.
Yeah.
Here they are.
Ah,
Oh, you sent for the
it's
budget.
gonna be a long,
Excuse me, was that, I thought you would say something, but was that about the North Lake Lapine partnership, or was that about something at the hospital there?
Public health, not the hospital, not the clinics, public health,
Uh-huh.
county public health. They got a grant of X amount to do,
It's for Cover Oregon.
cover Oregon. It was-
Oh.
We didn't have it when we did a budget, so it was unanticipated. So we have to go through a resolution, give it into our budget.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna explain that, but I didn't see
I
any.
thought you might, and then I thought, no, I'll just grill them.
I always like to make sure that
Appreciate
we
that.
go over things on the work session, so we know what it is, but when we have people at a regular session, that discussion is not always, it's not always present.
Fair enough. We're saving trees by not printing it all, too. One-page agenda.
Okay.
That's good.
Talk to Locust Sawmill about that.
I appreciate you explaining what you do explain. Thank you.
Done.
okay, it's 10:10. We're going to open up the public hearing for possible extension of ordinance 109. This ordinance was passed, I believe it was June 3rd in Fort Rock. We've done the correct advertisement for 14 days, put this on our agenda. So at this time, Mr. Bailey, do you need to do any kind of overview before we go into?
Oh, just the context, we passed the moratorium back in May because we had a deadline from the state law that we had to do it by then, and it was passed primarily because we lacked information about what the circumstances would be following legalization of marijuana on July 1st. So in that state of not knowing, we passed a moratorium to see how things would develop.
Okay. So during the hearing process, flashing come up, there's a 3-minute time frame to be able to speak on the moratorium. You'll be speaking to us. We won't be debating anything. We'll take that into consideration at the end. We'll close the hearing, and the Board of Commissioners with legal counsel, while you guys are here, are able to discuss and decide if we make a decision or no decision at all. So with that, whoever would like to, the public hearing is open. Anybody would like to step up and state your name and testify?
Could I don't want to get up there just yet, but could I just ask for a clarification on what the ordinance as it is now in place does? That's what we're here to have a public hearing on. What does it state?
What does it state?
Yes, sir.
I don't want to read the whole thing.
No, but I think there should, I mean, you should build a synopsis in it. Is it a prohibition of marijuana, period? I don't know what it is.
Do you want to get the highlights out of it, or?
Do you just want me to read the title?
Well, just for a little bit of clarification, marijuana is legalized recreation.
Okay.
It does not address that at all. Everybody have to abide by the rules of the state. This moratorium was a ban on marijuana facilities, and I'll let legal counsel correct me.
And at the time it was enacted, it was on medicinal because that was all that was
It was
available
on-
at that time, right?
I believe it reads marijuana facilities.
Section 4 is the operative.
Medicinal.
Yeah.
That's all that was enforced in the state of Oregon at that time.
Well, the title of it.
Establishment of, I'll read number 4, moratorium declared. Establishment of new and expansion of existing medical marijuana facilities and recreational marijuana facilities shall be prohibited within the boundaries of the county that we have jurisdiction on.
So it's a total prohibition of marijuana, both medicinal and recreational is what you're stating.
Facilities.
Retail, not recreational.
It said both, you just said recreational retail.
Recreational marijuana facilities.
And facilities are all types of things involved with marijuana production.
It
Warehousing.
doesn't prohibit any of us growing our legal number of plants at a residence.
But the main consistency is medicinal. I just wanted to point that out. That's all that was enforced in the state of Oregon at that time. That's all you could
It says
possibly.
medical marijuana facilities and recreational marijuana facilities.
Okay, so prohibition of marijuana.
But not recreational.
You just said recreational.
I don't get it.
Okay, I said
Confusing.
Prohibition on facilities for selling recreation.
It says for selling? I don't,
And expansion was the key word there, I believe.
New and expansion of.
Used for growing, cultivating, dispensing, selling, processing, producing, and wholesaling marijuana, whether for medical or recreational purposes.
so both, okay.
That's what the
Okay.
ordinance says.
That was the latter half of that being kicked in.
So with that, I believe that everybody's clear on that. We have the hearing. Does anybody want to step up and testify on that?
I would.
Okay.
State's name.
I'm Patty Duff. I'm from Fort Rock, Oregon, and I run Rock Horse Park and Horse Ranch, what I believe is the only head shop in the county. And, cannabis, medicinal cannabis has been legal in Oregon for over 20 years now. And dispensaries have been legal for a couple of years in parts of the state. And patients from Lake County, and really most counties, as you know, east of the Cascades, have had a difficult time getting hold of their medicines because it's been, they've been dealing with prohibition of cannabis. Now, not only is medicinal cannabis legal statewide, but recreational cannabis is also legal statewide. And I know there's a lot of confusion about this, a crossover between the two types of uses of this plant. Now that they're both legal in the state, all the adults are going to have the opportunity to have the 4 plants in the household. All the adults are going to have the opportunity to possess the 8 ounces in the household and to carry the ounce about. And that horse is already out of the gate. And a lot of people in this county and a lot of eastern counties in Oregon felt pretty strongly that that shouldn't be legalized, and they have a right to feel that way and to vote their conscience on that. And the voters of Oregon spoke, and it's legal now. So those things are not in jeopardy at all. And in fact, when the medicinal dispensary laws passed in Oregon, that was right around the same time I was buying that place up there. And it looked like that was going to be a really good opportunity. Here's an established glass shop that has an established clientele and a regular economy and a nice looking profit and loss report. And you know, the future looked really bright at that moment for the development of that business in the direction of the laws in Oregon, the way they were going. And so I purchased that business, and I invested a good deal of money in that business around my understanding of the laws pertaining to dispensaries. This is before we were really talking about recreational cannabis and the possibilities around that. There were very particular requirements of a business that would do a dispensary, and I thought, well, we're going to go that way. I'm going to make the investment. I'm going to make those things happen so that when it is legal in my county for me to have a dispensary, I've already got my ducks in a row. I've already got my security system in. I've already got my safe in. I've already made the kind of investments that will be required of me in order to be a licensee. I'm legit up there. Everything we do is legal and above board. We have a liquor license. The OLCC counts on me to identify people for age and to sell products that are meant for adults only to adults. And so I'm counting on the county of Lake to really step up to the plate and regulate this matter so that we can all bring up our economy. North Lake County, South Lake County, all the unincorporated areas. You got a lot of different industries. You got a lot of established growers. Sorry to say, but your legal law enforcement can tell you. You got a lot of people been working on growing, maybe below the board, but for the last 20 years who would like to come up above board and be involved in ethical, legitimate businesses wherein they are able to make livings for themselves and their families and no longer have their lives and their families jeopardized by doing the things that they do well. And the economy that will emerge from that will be much larger than what you have currently perceived. And thank you for letting me go over time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Next.
I'll go. I sent all three of you an email a few days ago, a copy to Jim Bailey as well, and a copy of ORS 197-520. So I submitted that to Denise for the record, so I won't spend a lot of time on that. However, I do want to focus the attention of this ordinance that you have is not a ban on marijuana or medical marijuana or recreational marijuana. This is a land use issue. This is an ORS 197, which is the land use statutes for the state of Oregon. And essentially what you're saying by the moratorium you applied on June 3rd was that at that time, not knowing what turned out to be HB 3400 was going to say with regards to land use, you determined at that time that because of that uncertainty, you wanted a moratorium in place on land use decisions around this subject until it became clear what the land use regulations would be. Well, on the 27th of June, I believe it was, HB 3400 was passed and included it in, and specifically in section 34 of it are the answers to the land use questions. So there shouldn't be land use questions any longer. When you couple the provisions of 3400 with your comprehensive land use plan and your zoning ordinance in Lake County, you know, with some interpretation possibly, you can address virtually any question that comes before you as far as that land use issue. So in my opinion, and the reason I care about this is that the town of Lakeview and Lake County share an urban growth boundary. And so you manage that urban growth boundary around Lakeview, make those decisions with notice to the town.
the town is interested in how you address this. We feel that your comprehensive plan coupled with ORS 197 and HB 3400 addresses the land use issues, and that you should you shouldn't extend this moratorium because the land use questions are no longer a question. They have been answered. This moratorium was it's a temporary moratorium on the land uses. And if you were to extend this, there's some provisions in the 520 statute that I provided you about what you need to have done by now if you wanted to extend it. You know, you need to have had a work plan for determining what the shortcomings were, how you're going to address them, what time frame you're going to address them in. And I assume that you would task your planning commission and planning department with coming up with those provisions for your land use ordinance that you felt would be needed. Since none of those things have happened that I'm at least aware of at this point in time, I think it's inappropriate for you to extend this particular moratorium based on land use. You need to address the issues about marijuana generally. You know, those provisions are also in 3400, and they're called the opt-out provisions, and that's where you should be addressing your concerns about marijuana, not in a temporary land use moratorium. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Anybody else?
I thought Decker had a lot to say and she put it aside, now she's not volunteering.
No,
So
I'm going to.
I'll step in and say something,
Step
but
on.
I
Go
was
ahead.
waiting for her to go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Al.
It's a hearing step.
All right. Al Monaco, concerned citizen. I think this is a practical matter of economic development in the county. The more uncertainty you create, the less possibility we'll have the kind of development that you guys pretend you want to have. Think of the number of people who will come here for decent jobs. Think of the new construction of homes and other facilities to support all those people. Think of the economic development that will make this county more family healthy, more secure for those who are here or those who want to come. Everything you want to do with this moratorium is only creating uncertainty for economic development. You need to get on with economic development. All the other issues are going to come up. If you wait another year, they're still going to come up and you're going to have to deal with them. Putting it off doesn't clear up the uses of marijuana, the production of marijuana, what the state's going to do. But putting it off is going to destroy the possibility of the economic development in this county that will result from those who want to come here and open personal, private endeavors and pursue economic development that will benefit the county. All the rest of this legalese stuff, you can sit and debate forever. But if you really care about economic development, you will get on with it and you will not extend this moratorium, and you will tell the public and those who want to invest money in this county that we are economic development friendly. And if you want to come here and start a business, and if it's a marijuana business because it's legal, we're happy to have you here. If they want to put in the Budweiser brewery, we're happy to have you here. If you want to put in a Jim Beam brewery, we're happy to have you here. It's legal, it's acceptable in the state, and it's economic development for this county and this city. And the longer you delay it, the more confusion you create, and the more chances that you will discourage that economic development that will come from those who are now interested in doing the marijuana growth. And I just suggest you get on with it and quit trying to look uncertain, because that's exactly how you look when you talk about extending this moratorium. Those are my comments.
Thank you.
So now I'll speak. My name is Teresa Decker, and I am here in direct contrast to what Mr. Monaco just spoke about, and what many in this room, I believe, are here for. But I am here as one of the 62% in Lake County that voted against marijuana. Marijuana is here to stay. We all know that. I noticed that many of the people that spoke at the last meeting on this topic had personal gain to be made. They were in the real estate business. They could make money from the sale of land, perhaps. So I think that's something to consider. They also were in the production business, or like the young lady said here, wanted to get into the production business. So that all has to do with personal gain. I don't have anything to gain by being up here. Individuals can have 4 plants. They can grow 8 feet tall, 10 feet tall. That's a lot of marijuana. They
That's
can
not
have, they have 8 ounces, can have 8 ounces of dried at their home, and 1 ounce on them. And my understanding is that it can also be, marijuana can now be purchased from medical dispensaries if they have access. I think that's what I heard somewhere. I learned at your last meeting that the tax revenues are not clear. So we don't really know how much this is going to benefit the county. And I think that's an uncertainty that we need to know a little bit more about before we make this decision. Additionally, marijuana is still federally illegal. So production, packaging, selling, and growing operations, you can't take IRS deductions. The part that concerns me about this is with the change in administration, maybe we have a different president coming up, and the federal laws change. What is going to happen to these companies that are here if the change in administration comes in and says, hey, it's federally illegal, we're gonna put this forth to all of the states? I don't have the answer to that. The 42nd group that wants to build 20 greenhouses claimed they could bring 100 jobs. Seems the newspaper mentioned 200 jobs because they included service jobs, and I don't think we can consider that. Any job, any industry that brings more jobs here is going to bring more service jobs. Alamos Gold is going to bring 300 to 500 jobs, I've heard, in the next 20 years. That's a lot of jobs. Red Rock Biofuels is expected to bring 25 jobs in-house, I guess in an office, 75 to 100 outside the office. That's economic growth there. We do have choices on economic growth. There are always jobs available. The hospital is always looking for people. Safeway's been looking for people all summer long. The schools, the mills, there are jobs for people that are drug-free and reliable, mostly reliable. There's more to the issue than jobs. We need to consider that ease of access will increase use. We need to keep kids safe, consider the impact on juvenile departments and schools. We need to think about the use of healthcare resources, DUIs, poisonings, law enforcement resources, trial resources. This is all going to play into it. These are resources that are unsure. We don't know how much tax we're going to get, but we know that these are going to be affected. We need to think about our culture, Lake County's culture. How is increased access of marijuana going to affect our culture? Do we want to keep our Western culture or attract all these people that might want to get high and can affect their job production? Increased use can be demotivating. We don't want all these 26-year-olds home on the couch, then looking to the county to support them financially. That's a scare there. Many counties and cities are starting to opt out and prohibit establishment of marijuana producers, processors, wholesalers. Cities of Ontario, Vail, Nissa, and counties Harney, Malheur, and Umatilla have opted out. I'll finish up, thank you. They are waiting for the OLCC rules to be clarified. Deschutes and Douglas County are waiting for those rules and have referred it to the voters. I would urge you to opt out, and if not, refer it to your voters. Thank you.
I'll get wordy on the radio, so I promised Al it wouldn't be wordy today.
3 minutes.
Thank you. Where do I start? Mike Warren, and I am here as a concerned citizen of the county of Lake, and also as a concerned government leader in our community. The reason that I come before you, I look at each one of you, I know you individually as compassionate people, just as I had to look at my fellow council. There were a couple who were statedly non-compassionate. But just like each of you are able to go to the medicinal corner over here, Howard's Drugs locally, it's here available to you. I would ask that you would make it available to what other doctors prescribe to their patients, and that's marijuana. It's medicinal, it's been approved in the state of Oregon, voted on for 20 years. I heard the comment a minute ago. So, you know, the federal government moving in on that, I don't think that's a problem. Don't think you have to worry about that. But I would ask in the name of compassion for those who do medicinally use cannabis, that you would think of them. I don't think you would cut off people from walking into Howard's Drugs or to a pharmacy anywhere in the United States for that matter. But that's what you're doing as leaders of our government, turning away from those individuals, however minor they might be, 105, I think is the last count I heard. But if you can turn away from those people, you're not representing your constituents. It's not fair. So I would ask each of you, as I look at you, knowing that you're compassionate, that you would share that. And that's what this issue is about. If you continue, you do away with the opportunity. There may never be one in Lake County. I don't know, maybe there will. I can't dictate that, but if there is, it keeps people in Lake County rather than going elsewhere to get their medicine. If they were going out of here to get their pharmaceuticals, how long would they be in other communities buying other goodies while they're there? So, in the name of economic development and for those that you represent, I would ask that you be compassionate.
I didn't prepare a statement, but what I wanted to do was just reflect on some items that this young lady made.
State your name, please.
Okay, Orlando Gonzalez, concerned citizen.
And Orlando, keep it towards what the hearing is about the ordinance. We
Right.
don't want it to become a debate between one or the other. It's about, we're gaining information for us to be able to make a decision on,
Right.
not a debate.
Okay. What I want to speak to is in regards to economic development.
Okay.
And people have said, hey, we need something, we need to do something in this county. We need to encourage economic development. One thing I want to point out is the thing that was pointed out was there are other jobs at the mill, at service, at the hospital, other places. Ladies and gentlemen, those are not what we call living wages. There's people here that are making $10 and less per hour. What would you do if I told you, hey, you're now going down to $10 and less per hour, or even 10? I run across people that are making $10 an hour, and I say to myself, how in the world can you do that? You folks, what I'm saying is you need to encourage people that I speak to, say, hey, we need to encourage some economic development to try to get some living wage jobs in this county. We have a lot of people say, hey, we have a lot of problems here, we have people who don't want to work. You want to work for $10 an hour, you can't make it. A single person with no kids, no car, a bicycle, that's what they have, and they're trying to make it on $10 an hour. And people say, hey, you know, that guy's really a lazy guy. He's not lazy, he's broke. I don't even know how to eat, I don't even know how to make it. That's all I want to say is, we need to encourage economic development. We've lost businesses here, and they were paying, I thought, pretty good wages, I heard they were. And we need to keep that in mind. We need to have some compassion for our other citizens in this county that aren't making decent wages, that are having a hard time making it. Okay, thanks a lot.
Anybody else?
Yes, sir. Sean Krager, KRA-GER. I'm one of those folks. I'm on disability. I make $750 a month, and I'm getting ready to face possible 17 months here because I know how to grow, but I have nowhere that I can take any of whatever I do. So I'm in a situation where it doesn't matter. If you know what you do, you can grow here. You can have 1.5 pounds. You can grow here. You can have 5 pounds. But in a season, if you do well at what you do, and you're only medically where you're at, but you have nowhere to move, then see, you're putting people in prison if you don't give them an option to have somewhere, because it is the truth that there is a lot of us who do what we do, and I'm speaking from North Lake County, that we do what we do, and I'm passionate about what I do. but I'm getting ready to face time because nobody will stand up for what we do or give us an option to do anything with what we do. What do we do? So I'm driven to my seat and I'm standing here as I put 20 years of work in what I do. I'm facing 17 months' time because there's nowhere. It's for my future brothers I'm talking about. I may be facing time no matter what. But my future brothers who do what we do, and no matter whether anyone hides in the closet or not, you don't have to be out in public to feel relaxed and to have spinal degeneration. I am on disability because of spinal degeneration. And I do not take prescriptions because if I take naproxen, it takes me not too long to start bleeding. I have a history in my family of toxicity. We cannot take prescriptions, and I do not take prescriptions because they take away from what your bones are consisting of. I take alfalfa, I take turmeric, and I take herbs that help me kill my pain. And it's exactly what this fella said. When it comes to where we get to stand and go get our prescriptions, where to us who are over-toxified, have liver problems, have any other kidney problems, where do we go? Thank you. Have a nice day. I vote in favor of killing the moratorium.
Anybody else?
Michael Stelly, representing Christmas Valley. I really didn't come prepared to speak today, but on the note of access to medicine and maybe a vacuum of knowledge of what that is, where I'm limited and not really qualified to speak on the medicinal. I have a miraculous medicinal marijuana story, which I won't share with you today, but the THC molecule and the cannabinoids that are found in the plant itself is something that we're still discovering the value of. And I want to use the state of Oklahoma, which the oil-making machines, which turn the product into oils, which is where you find the most of the medicinal qualities. And again, I state that I'm not qualified to really make these claims, but I've seen them in documentaries and I've listened to speakers, where the state of Oklahoma recognized themselves as red and anti-marijuana and drugs. They made legal because of the benefits, the medicinal qualities in arresting epileptic seizures, in Lou Gehrig's, in Alzheimer's, and all things that are being discovered right now. And again, I didn't come prepared to speak, so I'm speaking from the cuff. But my medicinal marijuana story is worth telling, share it here, but it brings me with a passion to speak with compassion for the people who will benefit in the future if we discover more things about this plant and its medicinal qualities. I am a medicinal marijuana card holder, and I'm facing penalties for carrying a little this big, a tiny little bit. And now I've certainly have access to the medicine. And the close I thought from the fact that was brought up from another different documentary where the pharmaceuticals and to speak to your question about the unknown, and they can go get their medicines. There are 3 times more death from use and misuse of pharmaceutical drugs than cocaine, methamphetamine, and heroin combined in the United States. That's a new medical fact, and you have to check that yourself. Okay, check that yourself. And in the note of economic opportunities, people in North End can't work the same way. We don't have a grocery store. Okay, we don't have mills. The farmers are driving down the prices, even for the gophers, the trapped gophers. There's some fair prices out there that people are paying, but honestly, the percentage of people who make a living wage in ag is sad. And I want to just state the opportunities are those of a lifetime in this business, and there's no difference between one plant and another, and we're discovering miraculous things in our medicine.
I understand, I'm a pharmacist.
Thank you.
I know about medicine.
So you do have a stake.
So you do have a stake. Yes, you do.
Yes, sir.
Well,
Thank you for identifying that.
I work at the hospital.
Jim Southern and healing. Parents were both born in 24. They're passed away now, but my dad was a pediatrician and my mom was a nurse. They both voted for medical marijuana in Washington State because they knew they were getting older. They knew that many of the pharmaceuticals plug us up inside so we can't take a bowel movement. And they knew that that was an important part of life. The spectrum of allowing this moratorium to be lifted and bringing businesses in is what I need you to do. I help sick people. I'm commanded to love them and help them. I'm also commanded to obey the laws of the land. I don't want to ever break the law. When it's 100 miles to drive to get medicine, it's hard to say no to their autistic child, 21-year-old child. There's lots going on here, and I hope you, and I really respect the challenges that you have with us voting on a law and then not changing, and now we're in this middle ground, and boy, what a hard position you have. I can guarantee you that I'll bring tourists here, that I'll bring tax dollars in with legal marijuana by providing amazing medicine and recreational medicine to everybody. Please give me that opportunity, or I will be departing my residents that I love in this county. I don't want to have to move. I've got friends. I don't like the city over there. I like it here. I don't want to have to move. But I am committed to helping sick people, and I will get into the best establishment that I can to be able to accomplish those goals and bring tax dollars at the same time. I hope that that can become a reality in the future. Thanks, gentlemen.
Mr. Walls?
Jim Walls, a representative from your Economic Development Advisory Committee. I was here last time. I think Al said everything I was going to say. So, but it is an economic development issue now. As I watched on the news the OLCC stuff and how they're going to regulate it and tag it all so they know where it's going and doing all that and put it on like alcohol has 2% beer or whatever. They're going to label the potency. I think being above board industry is an economic development move, and it's better than being in the underground. Because I don't think it means any more or less in the county of how much marijuana will be here to use. So to bring it up into a legal status, I think would be best for all of us, and then it is economic development. So, thank you.
I'm Jared Chen. I'm the CEO of the 42nd Group. A lot of people said a lot of good things today about why we should not have a moratorium. But we also failed to mention how it affects the black market. Now, by instating the moratorium, what actually happens is you force the citizens of Lake County, which I am a citizen of Lake County now, we have to be forced to go travel many hundreds of miles, sometimes even further up the coordinates to find the right medicine or product that we want for ourselves, which is now legal in the state of Oregon to use. Now, this being the case, if there's no dispensaries here, no stores here, no access to the product, to marijuana, other than you growing yourself, and what not everyone can do. Not everyone has the capabilities of growing plant, and even if they do grow it, usually they can't grow well. So, with that said, where does that lead? That leads them to have to go out of the way to a black market to find what they need to find. Not everyone can drive hundreds of miles to go to Bend or Klamath or anywhere else. It really is a matter of the law currently is put in place to go back to black market. And yes, it's true, a lot of counties have opted out. And all that does is it really promote that black market there. And if you haven't noticed, all those counties usually, like now, are eastern counties. And those people have a lot to go, a lot of distance to go to get to, say, cannabis stores. And Bend right now is the closest one we can consistently get good medicine from. Now all those people have to go that far, and at the same time they're spending money in all these other places, not spending money in Lake County. So on top of the economic hindrance, we also have a promotion of the black market for people that do travel that far and say at the same time pick up a little bit extra for their friends on the side. Now that's something that we want to stop here by allowing access that's regulated by the state and the city and the county, where all people are happy, that all people are safe, the kids are not affected, there are strict mandates by the OLCC around this. And with alcohol right now being legal as it is, do kids drink any more or less? So marijuana now is legal now as well. Do people smoke more or less? The answer is no. In fact, most likely that's because, and statistics have shown consistently that anywhere where the illegal drugs are made illegal, use is higher. And where places are legal, like say Portugal, the use is incredibly low. In fact, they have one of the lowest incidences of drug use around. Now, I really want you, as commissioners, to really consider this fact and all these things we said today, because the reality is, it is here to stay. It is not going anywhere. It won't do anything but hinder our progress. Thank you.
Perfect. On the second.
Anybody else?
That's funny.
Again, hold on, is there anybody that hasn't testified yet? And then, no.
Okay. Gentlemen, I wrote you a letter for the last meeting since I couldn't be here. I hope that's taken into consideration. I would like to say that you need to understand and remember that, number one, the Bible says all seed-bearing plants are given to us for our use. Number two, this plant has been in use for over 10,000 years around the world. The reason it was made illegal was because of the robber barons back in the 20s and 30s wanting to make hemp illegal. They did that by spreading lies and stories about black people and Mexican people performing naughty acts to white women that they got stoned. The real reason was hemp. Ford created a car that was ran off of hemp oil. Its body was made with hemp. Patent medicines at that time were using cannabis as one of their main ingredients. The pharmaceutical industry hated it because they had just invented the way to get chemical drugs into people's bodies. They needed to get rid of the competition. Hearst had huge paper mills and forests. He wanted it illegal because hemp grows so quickly and creates so much product that it was in danger of compromising his profit structure. So the bottom line there is that's why it was made illegal. Not because there is no proven ever cause of one person being killed by overdosing on marijuana. And as I think Jerry stated, in Colorado and Washington, the statistics show that where it's legal, there are less kids using marijuana than in places that it's not legal. Coming back to my letter, gentlemen, we need to remember that if you opt out at this point, you're opting out on the state level as well, which means that the monies that are going to come in to the state, Colorado was, I think, over $80 million last year. Washington, I believe, was 60-some million. Please don't quote me on the figures, but it's a ton of money. Lake County has a share of that, and I will, of the money that will be coming into Oregon. And I admit it's minuscule because it's based on our population. It's only 3%, it's only a small percentage. But you also have the 3% tax that was put into House Bill 3400 that allows you to gain tax monies, and I recommended that you use that money that could be coming in for county projects that are not currently funded, like economic development, and the road department that we all know needs money because of the timber situation. So I really urge you to think about economic development, all of these people that are involved in the industry, and you know, let's not go backwards. This is legal in Oregon, it's going to be legal in America soon. Don't make the mistake of hiding your head in the sand. Thank you.
Anybody else that hasn't testified? Mr. Ross.
My name is James Ross, R-O-S-S. And it's legal. In Oregon, it's legal. I had never smoked marijuana in my life. I don't quit on that smoking. But it's legal in Oregon. So the people in Lake County that use it, where they gonna get? They're gonna go out Lake County. Now that don't make sense. Because it's legal. If you can't get here, you go out of county. That's where the money is. So that means, what are you gonna do? You gonna hold it here on me? I ain't gonna smoke it. I don't care. You come out here and give it to me. But if it means more job in Lake County and keep the people here in Lake County, and to work there, you gotta have a drug test. So they know they ain't gonna let you work in the mill if you smoke marijuana. So you either can put your hand and forget it, let the people in Lake County go out, let the population keep going down, or you can go for it. Whatever you want to do.
Anybody else? Don?
As I'm going through, maybe getting ready to go in, I go through these programs. These programs tell me that the tobacco and alcohol are more toxic than the marijuana. We are wasting money putting me through a program that doesn't teach me anything, as I'm an herbalist. And we're wasting money putting people in jail. Yes, let's promote our economy here and stop wasting money reforming people who don't need it. And stop putting people in prison who have 4 or 5 kids because they're trying to climb above $750 a month.
Thank you.
That's what I would say.
Jim Walls, I forgot to say something. I am one of those 60+% that voted against it. And now it's totally an economic issue for me, and I had to rethink that, doing it. And I want to say, like James, I have tried it. I think twice when I was in the military, and I did inhale. But I will never do it again, And I think we've already heard that, when you look at alcohol and abuse and family problems that it causes, is far worse than marijuana ever has done. So it's legal now. So I just wanted to add, I am one of that 60+% that has changed their mind.
Thank you for your candor in the matter.
I probably shouldn't let everybody keep going. Don't go over or debate anything with anybody. Appreciate your comments, and Sean, they were different. So.
Do you want into the record the phone calls and?
I'll address that after we take testimony.
Jim Sutherland. I don't know if people are really aware of our federal government and the stances that they do have. THC is tetrahydrocannabinol, CBD is cannabidiol. Our federal government owns the patent on cannabidiol. In the District of Columbia, they have medical marijuana. They have recreational, if I'm correct, don't they?
Yes.
Yes. So our own federal government, if we're going to be that concerned, they need to be more concerned about their own walk. And I really don't see them continuing to jump back and enforce federal law when they own the CBD patent, they have medical, they have recreational in the District of Columbia.
Anybody else? With that, we'll close the hearing at 5 minutes till 11. We have had letters sent in. John, I acknowledge yours last meeting. It was brought into the record. I myself received a phone call from Mr. Bill Berry opposing this, opposing marijuana as a whole, and to enact the moratorium. Just so the record knows, I received that phone call. Denise, you have received either letters or phone calls.
I received phone calls from Mary Anderson and Jerry Bob and Ruth Ann Hill. They're in favor of the moratorium, all of them. And we do have a letter from the district attorney that is also in favor of the moratorium.
Okay, so with that, I need to clarify one other thing, or a couple other things. Now that the hearing's closed, unless asked, you won't be participating in this part. During the testimony, we've heard a lot from both sides, different things. This isn't about opt-out. This hearing today is about a moratorium, as our ordinance 109. So I appreciate the comments on opt-out, but we're not making a decision on opt-out today. This is about a moratorium and a time frame that we're going to be able to do that. So I just want to make sure everybody was clear, because if it's easy with something this passionate for everybody to talk outside of what our hearing is today, and we heard some of that. So with that, it's the board's time now to either act on this. No action would be action, actually, because the moratorium wouldn't go into place. I tried to keep track of several different things here, positive, negative thoughts from people from their point of view. So I guess, because I'm chairman, I'm the one that gets to kick off the discussion amongst ourselves and legal counsel. One thing that we've heard is that and this is something that we've all been concerned about, I believe, and something we talked about, and that is for people that have medical cards to be able to receive their marijuana through a dispensary or whatever. We've heard that pretty loud today, that the medical side needs to be able to receive the marijuana. We also heard what the law is, which we can't change, we're not trying to change, is every person can have 4 plants. So there's a whole different opportunity for people to be able to acquire marijuana, whether they have a medical card or not. I can't speak to the laws that what you can trade, what you can give away, or anything like that. There's a lot of things that probably are yet to be answered by OLCC and others. So I wrote that down. We heard very much about the economic development side. We're not talking about opting out today, we're talking about a moratorium. I heard people have to travel now to get their medical marijuana 100 miles. They'll get that because we don't have a dispensary in the Lake County area. I heard that there was choices for economic development. I heard that there was sometimes in economic development, basically you make choices of which direction you go. Heard that it's still federally illegal, and heard concerns for our youth to be able to acquire it. Heard that that's not a concern, that our youth, that we've heard that in places that it's legal, that there is less use by the youth. So those are some of the things I wrote down. Also noted here that, which people have mentioned several times, both ways, that 62% of the people voted against it. Heard Mr. Wald say he voted against it. Now he looks at economic development. He's one who changed his mind. Heard about ORS 197 land use. I wrote down to get explanation, asked Jim about that. So after me sort of doing an overview here, Mr. Sims had mentioned that, very specific land use, others, comp plan, address land use issues. So Mr. Bailey, the ordinance that we have before us, I guess the land use part of it is stated in here. If we were to consider adopting the ordinance, the guidelines that we can modify, change it, and is the land use, as Ray says, not of significance at this point.
No, I think Ray raises a valid point, but our ordinance was not passed solely on the authority coming out of ORS 197.520, but several other sources as well. And clearly the point of the ordinance, as stated in the ordinance, was the uncertainty that we're facing. So I disagree with him that we can't extend the moratorium ordinance. But I think he makes a valid point about the process in going forward, what we have to report to the Department of Land Conservation and Development. But I don't think it prevents us from extending the ordinance.
And can you state for a time frame on extension? Is it 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 7 months?
10 years.
No, the ordinance can't be extended indefinitely. I think that would be interpreted by the state as, in effect, what is called de facto opting out, and you run a risk if you extended it much longer, or even extended it without another deadline. The question of how far we can extend it, you and I were discussing whether or not it was 120 days or farther than that. If you were going to extend it, well, you have to decide how long you want to extend it. If you wanted to extend it as long as possible, then I would just recommend you extend it to the extent allowed by law, and that would correspond with state restrictions. However, I don't think you can extend it indefinitely without, in effect, making a decision on opting out, and I would recommend not doing that.
So, Mr. Bailey, December 27th is a pretty significant date related to all of this.
Whatever you do today is not the last point in your decision. You must make a decision by December 27th as to whether you will do nothing and allow the full growing to packaging to selling and retail sales without restrictions according to the state scheme, deciding whether or not the board will opt out by a board decision, or whether you will refer it to a public vote, which would take place in November of 2016. So those three options remain on the table regardless of your decision today. The effect of your decision today is to be quite direct, if you allow the moratorium to lapse, then anyone who starts a business starts it with the risk that you will change your decision, that you will go in another direction by December 27th. If you extend the moratorium, then you prevent someone from taking that risk. That's really what's that issue.
And part of that decision perhaps would be the opt-out 6 items, or if we chose to as a board to refer this to the voters, at which time would be November of 2016. So
yes, you must make that decision by December 27th. Yes. What you do today does not prevent you from revisiting that or even putting a new moratorium back on the table. So
we had a moratorium on this November 2016, they put it up on the vote. That goes past December 27th of this year, of course.
No, I'm sorry, I'll let you speak.
Yeah. So during this wait period until November 2016, would we be still in a moratorium, but not opting out?
My recommendation would be that the decision on whether to impose a moratorium in advance of a public vote be made in December rather than using the current moratorium and extending it to November 2016.
But if we did a moratorium to wait for the 2016 vote, would that opt us out?
No.
So it carry past December 27th?
No, no, that is a mechanism by which counties can refer it to a public vote. And you would be able to, just to be thorough, you can refer it to a public vote without a moratorium. And again, that would create the risk that someone could begin a business and then face the prohibition of that business as a result of the public vote.
That's a business decision.
That's correct.
Further discussion?
Well, I'll just comment on the 62%. I'm, for those who have actually came in and visited with me on this, and there haven't been too many, but I am perfectly aware that 62% of the citizens in Lake County voted against legalizing. That's no longer an issue, and I know that. Via email, I guess it's a discussion among us, but via email, one of the recommendations made by somebody who has a huge stake in this was to put this to the people. So I think that's quite an endorsement coming from somebody who has quite a stake in this, the outcome of this.
So, I want to make this statement here. I've always supported the medical side of marijuana. I believe that there is definitely certain types of medical needs that marijuana is very good. We have roughly 105 card holders in Lake County. Out of that 105, I don't know how many are on, how many have their expertise, how they're acquiring it, or whatever. But I haven't had anybody come to me and say, I haven't been able to get my marijuana, you know, on medical. As we heard earlier from the counselor there, his passion very much is so we're able to make sure that the people that have the need are able to acquire it. So I acknowledge that side of it. I acknowledge the medical side of it. The recreational is there as far as you can have 4 plants yourself. We don't know what all those laws and everything's going to come down from the LCC at this time. We don't even know what the laws are going to be to govern the people that are wanting to do, whether it's a smaller operation or it's the larger operation. I mean, as Commissioner Kessler said, those are going to be business decisions for those people that have to, at this point, try to guess the laws as best they can if they go into business. If there's no opt-out or there's no moratorium. I just wanted to state that I see that there is medical needs out there for marijuana.
I'll join in at this time. I've been reading up. I have to confess, in college, even though my cousin Bill said he did not in hell, did not believe him. I didn't. But I don't anymore. Whatever.
He related to Cousin Bill.
I'm from Arkansas, everybody's related. Notice I said not so much like other places. On the medical side, I'm very compassionate on that side. I have a niece back in Arkansas, brought her back when she was a little kid. And she has a choice of opiates, prescription, over the counter, which we all know is a major issue in the United States. She uses marijuana, it's not legal back there, so she had to go under the table to get it. Of course, up in the hills, that's not too hard. On the federal side, current administration have basically said whatever the states would want, of course, and we may have a change in administration. I don't know how far they would flip on that, but the aspect is changing throughout the United States. There's probably another 6 states looking at it. But again, as Commissioner Sound said, the vote last year was on recreational use. And the state says now it's recreational use. We can grow it at home, if you know how to grow it at home. I don't. But the issue in front of us now is how do we regulate or not regulate the transactions, basically. That's what's in front of us. Do we ban the transactions or do we govern the transactions? Ease of access is enhanced by having a legally transaction out through a medical dispensary or retail stores. I'm not really up on retail stores. Medical, I am. I was at a Department of Education Summit meeting in Medford last Friday. I was able to talk to the OSP off duty. He cannot give his agency opinion, but his opinion was, why the hell you want to interfere with private business? I mean, it's just, you actually see more benefits in having it out in the open as opposed to put underneath.
I'm going to interrupt you for just a second. As chairman, I made a huge mistake today. I didn't open a hearing at 10:30. We had a timed hearing, so at this point, I'm going to acknowledge that in case anybody's here for that hearing. I know Darwin is. And because it's advertised at that, apologize to everybody. I got caught up in the moment, I guess. So legal counsel is okay to delay that opening of that hearing.
It's totally fine to delay the opening. You can't advance it. The delay allows people to still get here, so you're fine to do it.
So we're going to delay that at this time. Sorry to interrupt you, but just, go ahead.
But you might get a gist of where I'm coming from. Bandit actually maintains some criminality, and it's may get busted because I went over and bought enough for 6 of my friends. I'm coming from. But when it really comes down to free enterprise is free enterprise, business is business, and I have a hard time going against my basic philosophy of business is business. I don't get much into the economics of do we get X dollars in taxes or do we get Y dollars. It's a business transaction, and what's before us is regulating or not regulating business transaction. That's what I'm thinking.
Mr. Bailey, for clarification, if we let the ordinance lapse, ordinance 109, if somebody does start a dispensary in Lake County, as October 1st, they can start selling a small amount as recreational use, not tax. And the laws aren't regulating that, aren't in effect yet. Can you clarify that, or are the laws in place for that?
Medical dispensaries as of October 1st can sell their excess product as a retail product. There will be no tax imposed on it until January.
Is there a limit on them? They can only, how do you know what's excess? I don't know.
Oh,
is there a limit on what they can sell? Is there?
No, that's a good question. They can sell their excess. That's what the law is.
How do they acquire
the excess from the production?
How do they legally acquire it?
No, it's from their medical production.
Through, is that anybody's medical production?
Their medical production.
There.
They can sell
What if they're growing for 6 people medical needs? Because you're allowed more plants, I believe, if you're growing for somebody. Is that correct, or am I?
6 plants.
I'll go to the.
Regardless, they can sell their excess, regardless of what their production is for medical. If they have an excess product, then they can sell that. They can engage in retail sales.
To the dispensary.
Through the dispensary.
From the dispensary.
Mr. Chairman, could you ask your legal counsel a question? Or may I ask you to ask him a question if he doesn't hear me say it?
Well, I guess that'll be the board's desire. I want to be very cautious about any questions, the legal question going to our legal counsel that's not from us. And opening it, once we open up the audience to ask the question without directly asking them the question, I don't think that's the appropriate way for a hearing.
So, I want to just talk about just one thing related to this. Pat's here, and she's from the bottom of Horse Ranch Hill, so I appreciate your desire to have it legally available to have a dispensary. And I appreciate Mr. Warren's comment on us being compassionate. I think he understands that, and I appreciate that acknowledgement for the record. Currently, when we talk about, and you know, I don't want to get down to this or that or anything else, but I think there needs to be, a lot of people think we have jurisdiction over the town of Lakeview and the city of Paisley, and we don't. So when I hear people talking about the need to leave to go to Klamath Falls or Bend or some of these other places, with the exception of the North End, which we're one county, we have the ability in those communities to have these very dispensaries. That's not a county commissioner decision, that's council and town council and city council decisions on those.
Good point.
Basically, the town of Lakeview and the city of Paisley has not addressed, then they go whatever direction.
The town of Lakeview has made a decision,
They have.
with not on opting out, but they do allow dispensaries, and they put guidelines. Now, that's what I heard the last testimony, was that they have made a decision.
But this, we can still make an opt-out if you want.
Okay. Yeah, opt-out's another thing, but as far as allowing dispensaries right now for medical in the town of Lakeview, that's allowed. And I don't think the city of Paisley made a decision one way or the other.
Excuse me, Commissioner, which is at the core of this moratorium? The needs of our community and compassion for those who need that product.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Back up, has a comment, if you wish to take.
Well,
It's not a question.
I want to be very cautious about opening up the audience. If we have hearings closed. If we allow one, we're going to have to allow them all. And I'm not going to pick and choose, so.
I wasn't suggesting, I was just making.
We had one before that, is a little bit different, asking a legal question. We don't let our legal counsel give legal advice to people in the audience, so.
Unlike other sections.
So, I don't want to offend people, but I do think we need to open up that back and go right into the hearing process. It still relates question and so on.
Yeah, we've had that.
But I want to make sure the board,
You know, the normal process, I have public input, and they've cut that off.
and if we ask a question, so, board need any more clarification? As I said, no action is an action. I believe legal counsel said that if we don't extend the moratorium, is that if people business-wise decide to go ahead and establish, that they have a risk of whatever decision can be made out on the opt-out, or whatever decisions that can be made by OLCC, and regulations that come down that way. Sure, we can take a break. It's 11:17. We'll come back at 11:30, take a short break.
No.
Bring the meeting back from recess. It's 11:30.
Right here, that's all right.
Back to the session. Thanks everybody for hanging around. And back to the discussion between the board and legal counsel. What we have before us is ordinance 109. Whether to continue it, we could continue that with and if there's a motion to continue, or if there's a motion, or if there's no motion, it just would not continue on. If there is a motion, it could be either two motions on extending ordinance 109 and then the time frame, or it could be one motion that would extend the moratorium. Ordinance 109 includes the number of days it could be. I'm just putting that out there, not saying to do the ordinance or not, just the options we have. And I want to clarify, make sure my statement's correct. If we do nothing, it just dies. It doesn't have to be by a motion to not accept ordinance.
Correct. This will expire at the end of the day today. If you either take no vote or the vote is deadlocked.
Okay. So with that, if the board has any more questions for legal counsel or any more discussion between the three of us, we can do that.
I guess I would just clarify that if you open it for a motion and there is no motion, then the issue is decided. And if there is a motion, then the motion is to extend, and with a component of how long it would be extended.
Okay. Is there any more discussion?
Just, well, before we go on, I just want to clarify something, because the 27th, because we've got a variety of things, but we're dealing with this particular moratorium, this ordinance. But the 27th is a Sunday in December.
Right.
And
it's only 180 days. That's where the 180 days falls.
That's where 180 days falls.
But you would need to make a decision the week before that.
So for, the record and for people's information, the decision that is made or not made today relative to this ordinance is one of potentially 2 or 3 additional steps in this process. You've talked about it already.
Yes, those other 3 options remain on the table, and you would have to decide them. Technically, since you could do it by an emergency decision, you could wait until, I suppose, noon on Christmas Eve, since you would still be here. You could wait that long, but not beyond that.
So, Mayor, one more clarification, because I believe I heard earlier, if this ordinance doesn't go through, another ordinance could be brought forward that may, for lack of better words, take or clean out some of this, some of this up.
Yeah,
And there
next
could
week
be,
you could.
through the proper notice time and everything between now and the December date.
Or if you felt that there was an emergency, then you wouldn't do it by public hearing, you could just enact it. So, yes, you still have the option to impose an ordinance with different wording that either goes to the same extent or partially. Basically, by letting this lapse, you give up no options. By extending it, you give up no options.
Any other discussion? Entertain a motion or not? There being no motion, there will be no action. Ordinance 109 will die as of midnight tonight. All right, thanks everybody for
Shall we?
coming.
Thank you.
God bless you all, one and all.
I would like to compliment everybody on how professional everybody was today as you went through the hearing process. Thank you.
Keep in mind, we still have till December 27th to make a decision or not a decision. So it's not a dead issue, it's just on hold.
It's a
Very much alive.
Usually. Oh, the thing I raised my hand for was, as a practical matter, you know, business people in Lake County who might or might not have been interested in opening dispensaries cannot at this moment, given the state of our legalities, run right out and have a flood of cannabis ready for market on October 4th. As a practical matter, that's about a 4-month operation, because I can't really speak for any other business people, but for myself, it would have been really stupid for me to also hang out the licensing fee to the state of Oregon and be sitting here waiting and wondering whether you guys would say yes or no on that. So licensing is a matter that takes a few months at least, so don't be afraid.
Okay, we're gonna move, we have several timed items and we're
Have a nice day, folks.
really blown out of the water on our agenda today.
Do you still, does Under Sheriff Hall still have the folks here for the agency?
Yeah,
I'm good the way I'm.
Did you get any information from him?
Yeah, I got some good information from Tom.
He's gonna have a time that.
He's available still, he said come at 12:30.
Okay,
But
so,
I know the answer now to the question we had before.
okay, so it sounds like that we have some federal people here on the law enforcement side that we can get that taken care of. I do need to acknowledge if our meeting runs quite long, Mr. Bailey has a 1:30 that he has to step out for.
Yeah,
So,
just send us.
we're gonna go to Forest River Cooperative Law Enforcement Agreement. Yes, we want to bring the desk back. Well, we'll have to have that when our next hearing comes up. Mike, you're on the podium again, buddy.
No, I'm having a movie right now.
It's different when you're on that side.
Yeah,
It is. Okay. Sorry for the short, or the long delay and there's a little bit of confusion here. So, Mr. Hobble, during a work session, we asked for you to get a hold of some people and maybe you bring some clarification for today. We have Daniel Tagg, Mr. Suba, Nina Hart. So, you want to give the first overview, Paul? Put you on the front.
I'm prepared today, so first off, I guess the first part of the conversation is we would like to continue our cooperative agreement that we've had in place for a number of years with the U.S. Forest Service to provide support on road closures for fires, emergency events. That has not changed. However, there has been some strategic planning that's been going on for quite some time to try and get some monies to the sheriff's office to allow some additional funding to come into the sheriff's office. And by doing that, they've specifically defined what those duties may be in addition to any kind of an emergency. And so specifically what we're talking about is fire management or fire enforcement protection duties, which would basically, there would be a sum of $5,000 that would be set aside that Lake County can access or leverage if we perform those duties. If we do not have time or can't make time, then we lose nothing, but we gain nothing. And so virtually what this basically does is it just gives us that availability to that money at this time. It may or may not be increased in the future. It may or may not go away in the future. So I don't think that we should structure our budget to count on this money per se for longevity, but it's something that would definitely elevate potentially the funding for the county. So that's kind of the overview, and you guys probably have a million questions.
Well, before we get going down what is in here, you mentioned budget. If we were to accept this, that'd be $5,000 unanticipated revenue, so we would have to do a resolution, which is no problem, but there's no guarantee you would get that revenue
I
into.
thought we only had to do a resolution if it was more than a certain percent of the budget, which I don't believe it would be.
This would be unanticipated revenue coming in unless I'm mistaken.
Okay, I'm not certain either, so
It might be a dollar amount that triggers that, Paul.
Okay.
That wasn't in your budget. If it's not in your budget, how do you expend it?
Right.
I think to expend it, you have to do a resolution.
Okay.
But we need to clarify that. And I know Commissioner Shannon had some.
Well, I'm glad Nina's here and Mark. I appreciate you being here. I'm just a little bit confused. I will admit I haven't read each and every word, but with what Paul just described, it sounds like it's a contract. That if we sign on a contract, you just said we'd get $5,000 when we put it in the bank. And
It stays in their bank.
That's
so it's
It's
only
theirs.
paid.
It's only paid if we work it.
That's how I read
Yes.
this. Yeah, it wasn't that we
So,
would be taking.
right, well, no, what I'm saying is we don't gain or lose unless we do the work.
Okay.
But doesn't it say in here if we don't expend it, that
Well,
amount is
The
available
Forest
the
Service,
next
it rolls over.
We have 5 years to expend that amount.
Okay.
That agreement is for 5 years. And so the different departments that we could add money into this agreement, this just happens to be pre-suppression money, and that we, the $5,000 is. But Mark has worked very hard with his counterparts trying to get other funding sources. So that's just the seed money for the agreement, with the hope that perhaps in the future we'll be able to have more money in that and to be able to utilize the services of the county to have more patrols and assistance from Mark on the Lake County side, similar to what they have on the climate side.
So Nina, you and Mark, you're not looking at this as for emergency fire suppression aid, to use a recent example of Berry Point, where it's an emergency.
The agreement would be used as a tool in order to unlock the fire funds. In other words, if you know, heaven forbid, if we had another Berry Point, and, you know, we need the sheriff's office help again in roadblocks, what have you, the agreement is referenced, and that's the, I guess, the legal tool to be able to allow the fire to pay, to reimburse their time. It wouldn't come out of that initial $5,000.
Okay, well, that was confusing yesterday, because we
There's
burned
two
through that
agreements.
literally.
There's 2 funds, remembering, of course, if we use them as a fire investigator, or we use them as security, road guards, that comes out of the P-code money, which is a different funds. These are hard dollars that we're applying towards the agreement to increase the services that Mark may need, be it patrolling or any other.
Well, when you said earlier, Nina, pre-suppression, that clears that
Yeah,
up.
that's totally, okay.
One other thing, just, I don't know if this is gonna change, or if you wanna know this information up front, but according to the most recent fire, danger level is going to change tomorrow. And so they're raising the levels, there will be a different level of enforcement that's gonna go with that. And so that's all the more reason that maybe we can do these duties that we're being asked as. And I'm still looking at it as, we're responding to the forest on a regular basis throughout the year as it is. And if we're responding to some other means of service that we're required to do with or without this contract, we can easily divert throughout the campground after the situation's taken care of, and now provide this service when we're already there. And we can build that money towards this.
Well, and I won't speak for my fellow commissioners, but I think that they would agree. We're willing cooperators. The board wants to be able to sign this. We lean on the sheriff's office, who knows their workload, knows their working relationships. Our questions were more around just clarification.
Right.
And not whether or
If
not
I may?
Yeah.
Under Sheriff Hall mentioned to me that the commissioners had a question as far as regards to verbiage in the agreement. And Robin Reed, who is not here, but if you have any questions specific to her, that's your copy. You know, we could call her, you know, on the phone, and she could answer any questions you might have. What she did was, she highlighted in the agreement in the operating plan, anything that she's got designated with the highlighter, that's standard verbiage out of the Washington office. So any cooperative law enforcement agreement between Forest Service and the Sheriff's Office, you know, within the nation, that's the standard verbiage. So that's something that we can't, you know, we don't have the luxury to be able to change in that.
That's good information.
One thing I shared with Mark yesterday after our meeting was there was some things that I couldn't answer that seemed to be conflicting back and forth, and one referenced emergency situations versus pre-suppression or fire prevention, or I don't know what that term is, but and so there, I didn't know enough information about it at that time to explain it, but after talking to Mark, I got a fairly clear idea that if we have a major event like a Berry Point, it really has nothing to do with that $5,000. It's purely about the contract that we've been doing for a number of years. And so the only caveat was adding in this extra money. If we do these extra duties, we'll be paid for those.
Well, and the agency, by the $5,000, has the ability, and undoubtedly would cut it off at $5,000 if we were spending that for non-emergency activities. That would be their call, working with you all. I will say yesterday, one of the things that I brought up in this agreement was some time ago, and I don't know the history, but I looked at this, for a non-fire emergency activity of your choosing that you wish to have the Lake County Sheriff's Department participate in, I was very concerned in this day and age of vehicle use and the miles put on, and we didn't account for that in our reimbursement plan, or at least I didn't read between the lines and get that accounting, as opposed to a stationary post during fire suppression, a true fire suppression where we're at 42 something an hour and 60 some dollars an hour for overtime.
Right.
We might be out at Berry Point and drive a few miles, and we could say we've captured that within that hourly rate. If we're out patrolling for a variety of things that Mark has asked for those services, we may put on 200 miles a day, and that would equate to about $115 in the federal pay scale for mileage reimbursement, and we're not covered under this agreement for that.
You'll have to assess that next year, whether or not those rates are equitable, because those rates were pulled out in 2010 with no increase, and so
Correct.
I think after you use this for a while, you'll be able to find out whether or not you are adequately being compensated for your mileage.
And we negotiate at that time.
Well, my question goes there exactly because Dan brought that up yesterday, but if I'm reading this right, the yellow the yellow marks on this cannot be negotiated. And it has that right next to B, which is reimbursement, but you go over to page 4 of 8 and see rates.
No, the rates are part of the operating plan. The agreement template is standard language. The operating plan basically gets to how we're going to implement the agreement, which is the standard template. We have room to do what we need to in the operating plan. That is written locally.
I'm only going with what Mark, not negotiable, and there seems to be a conflict on this.
As far as
That reimbursement shall be at following rates. There's the yellow mark there, so that means not
page
negotiable.
2 of 8?
Yeah. That means it's not negotiable. I think it may be a mistake on whoever done that. If you go to page 4 of 8, then C, it says that.
Where it's highlighted, she's talking about just the verbiage in B, that sentence there.
Just the verbiage.
Right.
Because
I mean, they do modifications to operating plans all the time.
I would, that's why I was getting there. I assumed that you could renegotiate that because there's inflation.
Yeah, and initially, you
factors,
know,
nothing else.
on the back of your packet, there's also a copy of the letter that Under Sheriff Howell sent to our administrative assistant that talked about the rates and
Our question on the rates came up in our work session yesterday. The letter had already been sent out. We're just trying to clarify.
The cost per mile, it seems like that's kind of a standard deal with the sheriffs in Oregon at least. that they factor in the base hours, you know, it says right here, cost per mile patrol is factored in the officer's wages. So, in other words, that $42.10 per hour, you're looking at what it's costing the county to, you know, support that deputy. You know, they're not getting $42.10 right into their paycheck, you know. So that's where, you know, basically what we do is we go to the sheriff and we say, hey, you know, we're doing the operating plan. Are these workable? Is this what you want? You know, that's where we come out with the rates.
Yeah, in this packet, Mark, that you, and I understand that this packet you gave us, we didn't have that attached page. But
well, just to give you background on these cooperative law enforcement agreements, back before the advent of, you know, uniformed law enforcement officers with the Forest Service, you know, and you can probably attest to this, Dan, when you were with the Forest Service, individual forests had agreements with the counties, okay? Advent of law enforcement, they basically said, hey, we'll handle that, you know, put it under this law enforcement to cooperative agreement, and the funding's supposed to come out of Title II dollars, okay? And for years, you know, my whole career has been over here on this forest, and for years I've been trying to get money for the Lake County Sheriff's Office, probably to the detriment of my career. But the objective of the Title II dollars in this cooperative agreement was specifically for counties like Lake County. You have a rural community, you know, rural county, you've got limited staffing. So, in other words, Forest Service has a need, and it's like, to me, it's a win-win situation. You know, the Sheriff's Office is already responding to calls, you know, out on the forest, you know, as well as BLM. And to me, I think, you know, thanks to Nina, she's the one that really worked hard to get fire to kick in this seed money of $5,000. And what was it, last month? We had a special agent in charge with the assistant special agent in charge and the patrol commander for Region 6, which is Oregon and Washington. They came down here and they had a visit with Daniel. Under Sheriff Powell couldn't make it because you were right in the middle of your transfer over the MDTs, that kind of stuff. But anyway, that was brought up to this new special agent in charge about, hey, we have these agreements, the Lake County's not getting anything. And so, you know, his parting words were, you know, Sheriff's Office come up with a proposal, send it directly to him, you know, for additional dollars that we can throw into this.
So the dollars become available your next fiscal year, the end of, is October 1st or the end of October, your fiscal year?
I think that the sooner that you can draft a proposal and get that submitted, the better chance you have for getting a portion of that funding before it's all expended and accounted for.
Well, because they would need to obligate it probably this fiscal year,
I
wouldn't
imagine
they?
they would start dispersing that come beginning of the year. And so if Deschutes is getting a portion of it, Klamath is getting a portion of it, and if Lake County does a very good proposal, perhaps we could get a portion of it. And that is new, and I think that with the new special agent in charge is aware that Lake County has not received any of that money. And I think that would be a strong point, and when you do that proposal, that you are already doing the work without the funding, and we need to be recognized as a county to be getting part of those funding.
Well, thank both of you for your work and recognition and support of Lake County and our limited funds. We really do appreciate it. And just for clarification, it wasn't about any of this. It was just us making sure we understood what we were going to sign because the undersheriff was bringing this forward. I would like to ask our legal counsel if he saw anything that he has questions about in the sheriff's departments and said, yeah, just part of the process.
Yeah. Well, the $5,000 was new, and myself, I was worried about, are we going to be out there patrolling kind of our road deputies need to be on the state roads, the county roads, and these other things quite a bit. We're pretty short-staffed ourselves. And so there was a concern of obligation, and if it's mandated, you had to do it this time or whatever. And so the clarification is very good. Nina, you mentioned that it's 5 years, and maybe I haven't read this well enough to know this isn't a 5-year contract, it's 5 years of.
It's a 5-year agreement, not a contract, it's an agreement.
Agreement for
So
5 years.
there's no contract that you're obligated to do anything.
Okay, it's agreement for 5 years, is there $5,000 a year, or what you don't use carries over to the next year, is there any?
This 5,000 is just seed money. If by chance at the year end, we had more year end funding that was unspent of various departments, we could definitely put it in. If we determine that the funding that Mark is talking about would be great, because that would be more stable, where, just like Klamath County is getting that 16,000, then you could count on something like that as an agreement, not a contract, that you would have that, and then you could perhaps be able to factor that into your budget. But with it, the uncertainty right now,
Going our budgeting process.
yeah, there's nothing that is certain about this other than you have this little seed money to start it.
And what you have before you is you have two documents. You have the agreement, which goes, it's a 5-year, on a 5-year basis. That's why the previous agreement had a 10 in front of it, that was in 2010. And so the agreement expired at the end of July, okay? And so that's why, you know, we want to get this new agreement, the 2015 in place. So it'll run till 2020, but the second piece of the document is and that's exactly what it says, is the annual operating and financial plan. That's the second half of it, the 8 pages there.
Exhibit A.
Yeah, annual operating plan and financial plan. That is on an annual basis. So, in other words, next year, after we've got this pilot thing, then we now have some money, however little to work with, we look at it, and then the sheriff can also say, well, hey, for next year we need to raise that base wage and overtime wage, or if you want to yeah, to.
So you triggered what one of our questions was yesterday, it's 2 agreements, but it's Exhibit A, so do we accept this as one agreement or 2 different motions?
That's right,
You wasn't focused? There's Exhibit A, which is an annual agreement, as Mark just said. Yesterday we was confused.
Well,
do we accept the cooperative law enforcement agreement, just a technical thing, or is it all one?
It's all one.
It's all
one. It's got the same agreement number referenced at the top.
Then on page 1 of 9, the very first page, under 2A, it says that's what we're accepting is Exhibit A to perform those duties.
Right.
So we need
I'd entertain a motion.
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we approve Forest Service Agreement number as listed. I can read it out.
No, you don't.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the cooperative law enforcement agreement, and the record will show the agreement number. Further discussion? I'd just like to say thank you to the folks from the Forest Service, and Daniel also coming in today to answer our questions and our confusion that we have.
I just have one question. On the email from Robin 2 days ago, it says, if your signature is not received by the 24th, the funds are at risk. Is that so that the funds can be allocated into the next fiscal year?
Once it's done, it's committed and obligated already towards this agreement.
If you want, she's waiting in the wings, we could call her directly.
No, if we address it today is before 24th.
Yeah. I just think, I think what she's talking about is the agreement expired the end of July, and our fiscal year
October 1.
starts October 1, but, you know, there's cutoff dates prior to that as far as what money you can obligate, what money you can spend, so on and so forth.
That's what I assumed it was.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion
Thank you
carried.
very much.
Thank you
Mark.
guys.
Thank you.
I feel like we got
Thank you too, Xander.
Keep them small.
Short change as far as time, is that what you're complaining?
Mark, that one didn't come from me.
Yeah, well, there was no reference I did take, Brad, but you clarified that for me.
Oh, better sign them both. Even though it's one.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
It's one, but we have two places to sign.
Yeah.
It's still confusing.
Well, one's negotiate, you can negotiate each and every year, the attachment meeting. The other's a 5-year agreement to provide those services. So it's a kind of a funky.
Okay, so, being our whole schedule has been blown, and Darwin's been here, are we gonna break for lunch, or are we gonna power through?
Well, you said Mr. Bailey had.
He has a 1:30.
1:30.
I think he's buying lunch for everybody, 1:30. You got lunch? No, that's not gonna happen.
I don't recall that motion. Calling in and working lunch.
So it sounds like we're going to power through, is that what I hear? We're gonna power through. Okay, we're gonna go to open up the 10:30 item that has been delayed.
It was opened previously.
No, did I open it?
you opened it.
I opened it, well,
Yeah,
I
you
hope
did
you,
open
I hope
it.
you wrote
Yeah.
down the time.
I did.
Okay, so the item that I opened earlier, the public hearing and zoning ordinance update,
11:10.
was open at 11:10. We're going to have Darwin come up. Is there anybody here to testify on that? I'll bring the podium up if I don't see nobody in the audience. We'll stay with the makeup we have now. So Darwin.
So I'm gonna keep this.
We're officially open. Give a quick
Appreciate it.
overview, then I'll.
Quick overview will be short, as requested. The three items that we need clarification on and solutions to what are potentially huge issues if we adopt the model code, which has been presented to us as what would replace Articles 3, 4, part of Article 1 and part of Article 24. And also Article 6. Our goal 3 and 4 lands. Those three issues, and I could go over them again, but we all know what they are. If we move forward currently, it presents a huge problem moving forward for property owners potentially. So at this time, I don't have at least something I'm confident from the state is acceptable. And so at this time, I really wish that we delay this a little bit further until we get clarification from the state on the process in which we need to take to finish up with this amendment and update to our ordinance.
So I appreciate that. Just for the process, that's a quick overview before we really make a decision. I want to make sure, is there anybody here who'd like to testify on the hearing that's open, ordinance update, or not ordinance update? There being none, we will close that hearing at 5 minutes after 12. Mr. Bailey, we have nobody that has testified during the hearing. Darwin will probably reiterate exactly what I just said, that there's a need to continue this on. Is that within the guidelines of the hearing process? Because I believe this is the second, or this might be the third time we've extended this hearing.
This would be the third
time.
You can continue it, but you don't need to have any further public comment. So when you come back to revisit it, then you would be acting on Darwin's recommendation.
Okay.
And no significant change.
Correct.
Okay. And there's no written or oral that's come in that people wanted in this. Okay. So I don't think Darwin needs to re-say what he said. I would say that we continue this on.
table it until the consensus.
All right, thank you for being so patient.
Time and date certain? Do we need that for the?
No, I think you
No,
can just
just until-
advise them,
Okay.
you know, based on the
When
information.
you're
you
ready
get.
at that.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll certainly be working hard to get it done.
So we're gonna hammer on through, we got, it was a timed item, apologize to anybody waiting on it. Road vacation request, that is yours also, Darwin, the reason why it's a road request, vacation request for you, is, and the roadmaster is not here, is it's not established county roads or public ways at this time, platted public ways at this time, am I correct? And those are vacated for.
For one,
your-
yes, the other one,
Yes, there is
a county road.
There is two, there is, I apologize. Let's do the one that is non-county road.
Okay, yeah.
And did we need to get, well, we'll let you give an overview and we'll see if we need to get Mr. Gregory on the phone
I
or not.
appreciate that, thank you. The request has been made by Obsidian Renewables to vacate portions of platted OVL blocks, the roads that give access to those lots that were originally subdivided and platted. Request actually needs a modification, and the reason why I need to state that is, we had the question before on there being in block 42, one of the lots not owned by Obsidian Renewables, and the map that they provided shows a jog around, which is lot 23 of block 42, whichever township range this is.
And that was to maintain access to that.
Yeah,
private end.
yeah, we have to give access to that lot. If we, the way we're providing this hearing, well, it's not a hearing, but the way we're providing this review at least for this property vacation is because 100% of the property owners agreed to this property vacation and 100% of the abutting property owners.
So question, just clarification on the map we have with that lot. It's showing by the slash marks, might not be correct, showing the whole alley is being
Yeah,
vacated. And I think technically you only give up half of that alley to protect that land.
So, and you could do the same with the street. All that would have required a public hearing though. So what Todd and I have discussed on the phone just this morning was that to stay in compliance with the state statute and means that they don't have approval 100% of those property owners. They're only requesting truly what they own and abut. And so they're able we're able to continue this process and without holding a public hearing. What is important to note is that they believe that they will never acquire that property. So the map that they gave us, showing that jog around lot 23, it's not shown as lot 23, but that is the lot that they don't own. They are not going to acquire that. So when they actually do develop the land as a solar project, or whatever ends up being the case, proposed for solar, that they will jog around that with their fence. And so your question yesterday was, well, why don't we wait until they acquire that? And they're saying they're not going to. So we need to finish up.
So with that said, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
If we're going to do it without the hearing process, because we can, because it's all inclusive of property owners, roads and everything, this would have to be changed to allow those two short sections to be able to access that alley. If you follow me, what I'm saying here? These roads couldn't be vacated here. This section, and the alley could be vacated without a hearing process for this landowner to be able to testify pro or con. So do they want to modify?
So this isn't the section. The lot that we're talking about is this one right there. And so we're only talking about a little bit of portion on that alleyway and this road. And what Todd would like.
Okay, so I'm wrong on that. It's this.
Well, I just didn't inform you correctly, but yeah. So we're going to be doing that, and I've got the verbiage exactly how it would read in your in the ordinance. In the order, sorry, order of vacation.
So access for this person
would still.
How about just make sure we follow our guidelines?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was drawn incorrectly. It was drawn away the way the order of vacation reads right now, but I do need to make that modification. I've got the language in which I can read
Okay,
a record
so-
of how that will actually read.
So it will, I just wanted, if we adopt this, make sure that the language and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate that.
Especially if they say they're never going to be able to acquire that one, I'm sure that there's a landowner negotiations that's probably tense right now.
Yeah.
Now, I
So-
want to make sure we follow our process.
So if you've got the order in front of you, I copied and pasted from the request. That's why it's originally was incorrect. And the map that I drew was incorrect because I was following what they requested. But knowing that they don't own that property and will never own that property, under alleys, item number 4, alley between lots 1 through 22 and 27 through 48. That will give alley access still to that lot 23 and 24 as well, but and 25 and 26. And then under streets and roads, well, streets, number 8 would read same as it does now, except it would replace after Wyoming the comma that says except between lots 25 and 26 in block 31 and lots 23 and 24 in block 42. And that should cover us and leave that road open. So, that's my recommendation, and with those adjustments.
So you'll have an updated one for me?
Yeah, I will.
Okay, I wrote all those down, so you'll have that as official record. I'm still just struggling with, somebody wants something so major, not here before us.
Yeah, we can.
And you phoned, we had that conversation yesterday, but I mean, I'm just a little bit surprised that they would carry something this important forward by our planning director whenever we can't ask them direct questions, but that's where we're at today.
Todd is available if we want to catch him. He was waiting at 11 and the prior meeting going over. And again,
But he had no intentions until we called.
he didn't know, I didn't put this on our agenda until late Monday night, knowing that the work session was Tuesday, and that was.
At his request.
Yes, at his request, but knowing that if they own the property, there's no reason to delay it. I mean, it's.
Well, what we have before us is accepted as presented with corrections.
Say again, I'm sorry.
So what we have before us is to accept.
I was making sure it wasn't a motion to accept it. Yeah, you're exactly right. Or vacation.
So legal counsel.
Yeah, I was just checking to make sure we're doing it all correct and we're fine.
Okay.
And, go ahead.
I'll just say I'll make a motion to accept the order of vacation as presented with the clarification of today.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept the order of vacation in the matter of vacation proceeding in certain public land within Lake County. This is done within the guidelines, doing it without hearing, corrections as were stated. Further discussion, we will be seeing other things come before us on this later on mineral rights and things like that, possibly, if they decide to do that. That has no impact on the vacation of the roads at this time, and alleys. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Where do you have a motion on that big close?
No,
Not
we
yet,
haven't.
no.
Okay.
No, that's next.
All right,
So Darwin's gonna provide you with a different revised copy, so you're not signing it.
Yeah, don't say that now.
So, clarification, we have the other road vacation, it is a county road. Roadmaster, I believe, has probably emailed all of us with information, using his paving time of the year and chip seal time of year. And Darwin has put some work along with other county employees on this. Do a bit of an overview, Darwin, and we can act on this one here today also without a hearing process.
I appreciate that. I would like to acknowledge, Karen Smith's work on it, along with Dave Knowles and then the clerk's office for trying to research this out and see if in fact these roads had been vacated prior to what we're now asking for. So they did a tremendous job on doing that, and I feel that what we've presented now is fully within the intent of the law. Again, to hold a vacation without a hearing, as the budding property owner is 100% in favor of this and would like this clarified. And that requires us to hold this vacation process. The order you have in front of you describes the road ending, and I don't have it in front of me, so I have my copy, but it describes what is presented on this map as where that road would end, and I'll be part of the record, and appreciate that. And it would all previously deeded or dedicated road beyond that section of road described above, which is to that point on this map, would be vacated, and it's a simple process. I'm glad we're going to clean up this long-standing omission, I guess, in the record. So.
It was, for the record, before our time in 1970.
Way before your time, 45 years ago.
Well, instead there was a decision made then that we just, maybe the record.
Clean it up.
Yep. So
I'll make a motion that we approve the order of vacation as presented.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the order of vacation in the matter of the vacation proceeding to certain public land within Lake County. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Are we done with you, Darwin?
Get out of here.
Don't leave.
So do we want anything gonna put back to eat, or do we want to power through?
Now your stomach's starting to growl now.
That's just saying,
Let me
well,
find my
there, so Jim
agenda.
can get on the road and I can get on the road.
We have a lot to go through.
It's up to you guys. I'm just,
We have a
I
lot to go
probably
through.
need food.
Let's come back, and let's take 45-minute lunch break, let's come back.
But did you bring the brownies?
We will recess until 20 minutes after 1.
Thank you.
That's right. No.
20 minutes after 1.
Until 1.
That'd be 12.